Before we jump into the main content of the exam, I just want to walk you through this quite important prerequisite, and that's how to set up a sandbox Fabric environment, because this is the problem. Ideally, you need administrator access to a Fabric tenant to pass the exam. There's some questions that require you to understand what's going on in the admin portal in Fabric, which you probably might not have if you're an analytics engineer in a company. Now, Microsoft, as you're probably aware, offers a free trial, but to use it, you need to set up a business email address. So you need to have access to a business email address. Now, there used to exist an old method that required you to set up a Microsoft developer account and then set up an E5 sandbox environment. And then from that, you can set up the Fabric free trial. But unfortunately, that method has been discontinued. So how can you set up a business email address to start a Fabric free trial that you're going to need to set up a kind of sandbox environment to help you revise for this exam? Well, there's a bit of a four-step process. There's a few different ways that you can do this. This is probably the best method that I've seen. So it's a four-step process. And I'm just going to show you the process first, and then we'll walk through how to actually do this. But it involves creating a Azure account. So if you don't have an Microsoft Azure account, then you can do that. You can set that up with your personal email address. Then you're going to create a user within Entra ID. So Entra ID is what used to be called Azure Active Directory. So you're going to set up a new user, and from that you get a business email address. From there, we can use that business email address to set up your free trial and then start using Fabric. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Now, your first step is to go to azure.microsoft.com. I'll leave a link in the description, and sign in with a personal email address. Now, the email address I'm using here is actually a Microsoft email address. So I've created a Microsoft personal email address behind this Gmail account. And it's going to ask you to set up a profile for your Azure account. Now, here it's saying I'm not eligible for a free account because I've already set one up previously, but you can do pay as you go. And then it's going to ask you for a few more details. You're probably going to have to authenticate with your mobile phone as well. Don't need any technical support. Sign up. And then once you've got an account, this is what the Azure portal looks like. So in the search bar at the top, just search for Microsoft Entra ID. And what we're going to do here is click on the Users tab down the left-hand side. And then we're going to go on New User, Create New User. So fill in some details here and make a note of what you write down here as the user principal name. You can add in a display name and a password. And I'm just copying it into a notepad because we're going to need those details in a second. Now what you want to go and do is click on assignments. Now this is quite important because you need to give this user an assignment. And the assignment that I've given it is Fabric Administrator, because that's going to allow you to access the Fabric admin portal with this user. So when that's assigned, click on Review and Create, and then Create here. So now we've got a new user set up within our within our Azure portal. Now what I'm going to do is go to app.fabric.microsoft.com, and it's going to ask you for this business email address. And now we've got an onmicrosoft.com email address. We can put that in there. It's going to ask for the password. Use the password that you used when you set up the account. You might have to update it the first time you use the password. Okay, so it's going to ask you to do a bit more signing in, selecting your free account, sign up. And so here you are, we're in the Fabric homepage. Now what you want to do is go to you can see already that the Fabric trial has been enabled in this account. If we go to create an item here, for example, a new data flow, then it's going to say upgrade to a free Fabric trial. Click OK. And that's going to basically get your trial enabled. And what we're going to do here is just go into the admin portal, so the settings and then admin portal, and you should see the same list down the left hand side Okay, so just before we wrap up the video, I just want to urge a bit of caution here. So what we've done is set up a pay-as-you-go Microsoft Azure account, or you've used the free trial to set up that Azure account. Now this is free unless you go ahead and start creating a lot of new resources in Azure. When you create new resources in Azure, it's going to cost you money. So if you're not experienced in Azure, I'd recommend not creating anything else in Azure, as it will cost you money. And depending on the resource, it could end up costing you a lot of money. So just a word of caution there. So in this lesson, we've looked at how to set up a business email, that onmicrosoft.com email address. That's going to allow you to create a Fabric free trial and use it to access things like the admin portal that you're going to need for the exam. Thanks very much for watching. Join us in the next lesson where we'll start looking at the first chapter in the syllabus, which is planning a data analytics environment.